We are live. I think we're back. It's Molten Chat again now. I want to ask, first of all, before I launch into my fabulous introduction, that you can hear us. So we're just going to twiddle our thumbs here for a moment. And if you can just let me know that you can hear me, and you can hear Girts as well, to give us a wave.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, yes, good, yes. We're in here. Let us know in the chat that you can hear us. Give us hello. Go on, somebody.
Let's assume that it works.
We could assume it works. Oh, I'm excited for this one. Yeah, well, come on, just tell us if you can hear us. I mean, obviously, if you can't hear us, then that must be because I haven't pressed the right button somewhere, but I think I have. There's a thumbs up. Come on, you can do better than that. The suspense is killing me.
Need to find the center of the screen.
Loud and clear. Okay. Loud and clear. Good. Right. We hear you. Great. We're there. All right. So the first 5 minutes are a little bit just sitting around. But anyway, so welcome. I'm Robin Vincent and welcome very much to Molten Chat. Again, here we are on a Thursday night on what would have been the first day of Superbooth. And I'm here with Girts from Erica Synths. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here, sir. You're an idol, an icon, what's the other word? I don't know. A regular, certainly at Superbooth. How are you, sir?
Pretty good, actually. We today just realized that that's so great that we did not need to travel to actual Superbooth because we still have time to make things better, to work on some new stuff and to catch some ideas, to stay with people we love, or Tuna the cat we love, and so yeah, and it happens online. So it's really a lot happening online nowadays.
Well, it saved everyone a whole lot of time, except perhaps for Heinbach and people like that who are flat out all day, every day. But other than that, for the rest of us, it's a very easy time. No airports, no messing about, no floating around, no strange foods, or having to deal with language barriers. We're just all flowing.
Guys from Game Changer Audio who are just across the river next to our office. So they said they save a lot of money because they are not traveling.
Yes,
and they were traveling a lot.
Have they finished their motor synth yet? Do you know?
We are waiting for our Indiegogo bid.
Yeah.
So, and I hope we will be one of first who get it because shipment is just across the river.
Yeah, definitely.
But it has to be here any minute. So
yeah, that was definitely a highlight of Superbooth last year, I think. You often you take quite a lot of people with you, don't you, when you go to Superbooth?
We go all team plus some of our friends as well. Like we have an engineer who does not work full time for us, but and he works exclusively during nights. And he joins us for Superbooth, and it's quite an adventure for him because he doesn't like traveling particularly, but he adores synthesizers. So to see so many things in one place, that's something for everyone who loves synthesizers.
Okay, someone's just hang on. Someone's just pointed out there's an echo on your voice. I think...
On my...
Yeah, no, that's my fault on my end. It's feeding back through my microphone because I haven't muted out my main speakers.
Okay.
So hopefully that's sorted that out a little bit better. Sorry, everyone's waving going, oi, fix it. Okay, that should have fixed it, I think. I hope. Sorry about that. So, so how many Superbooths have you done? When did you start going? I mean, I don't actually know the history of Erica Synths. Maybe you can give us a very quick, where did you emerge from? What was your, what's your journey, man?
Back in secondary school, which is like, actually, it started when I was in early teenage years. I had some. I'm from a small village. When I was studying in primary school, entire school was like 120 people, students, and in my class particularly, we were like 13. And one day, I was alone in our physics class. And there was a small library and kind of small room where the teacher kept all stuff for experiments and stuff. And I borrowed a book there about electronics and stuff, DIY thing. And the book was published in 1960 something. And there was a lot of stuff with vacuum tubes and so. And I started to disintegrate some old TV sets and stuff because it was difficult to obtain parts. And I started building some DIY stuff, radio receivers, amplifiers, and including with vacuum tubes, which means transformers with 400 volts, and I got electric shocks regularly. Yeah. And nobody from my family actually got what I'm doing there. So that was something which a person from that small village typically wouldn't do. And I was actually a bit I felt undervalued for what I do because and stuff. But in that sense, I admire my parents because they did not interfere. So they just let me do, and except sometimes when I was soldering too much, the solder paste or cuneiform, or how it's called, I don't know. Back in Soviet times, it had different constitution, and it was making a lot of smoke.
Smoke, yeah.
Yeah, when I soldered in my room, that was actually like a fog in a room. Yeah, but somehow when I went to study in secondary school, like in late teenage years, I found particular interest in electronic musical instruments. So I subscribed for some Russian magazines on DIY things and stuff because everything from West was banned. So that I could not subscribe for any Western press or whatever. Yeah, and then we, in a secondary school, we decided to organize a punk band. I made guitars. Actually, I just had some technical drawings from those magazines and made guitars, electrical ones, bass guitar, like regular one. Mm-hmm. But this punk band never happened because we went to study to university, so we split up and then independence came, and all of a sudden borders opened, and I dropped that hobby. But some 10 years ago or something, I decided to build electronics constructor for my son. So I started to solder, putting together small boxes, which was kind of modular constructor where he could interconnect those small boxes and make electrical circuits, learn what happens when you do something right, and consequences of doing something wrong when something blows up. And then I realized, well, I need something that makes sound. And then I built some small box with a speaker. And then I thought, well, I need something that makes controllable sounds. And then I realized I need something that makes musical sounds, perhaps. I searched the internet, and I was amazed about DIY scene, which was worldwide. And then over the next few years, I built everything from music from outer space. And
yes, no, that's come up a lot actually. Yeah, that's interesting.
And he complained that, well, he needs to invent something new because I built his old site. Yeah, and when Ray Wilson passed away, that was the first time I was genuinely sorry about a person whom I did not know personally, although we exchanged some emails and so. And when he published a book, there is a Erica Synths sequencer based on Ray Wilson's design, photo of that sequencer included in the book. So if you have Ray Wilson's build analog synthesizers, there is a sequencer, which was the first public appearance of Erica Synths.
See that? I mean, that's really interesting because I spoke to Manu from Bafako on Monday. I had a chat here with him, and he mentioned the music from outer space as well as being the source for their first modules and the first bits they built. It's amazing that the legacy that man left behind. It seems to have, because of the beauty of the internet, that you can just put something somewhere, and if somebody finds it and it spreads, it can be extraordinary.
Exactly. Same with Jürgen Heible. So he also had like amazing designs, and I built, I guess, everything he created. And then I started my modular synthesizer, and that was kind of weird format. I did not follow any standards or something. That was something in between 5U and 4U, and I was making front panels from unprocessed PCBs and just painted them with spray paint in black.
Of course.
And then was making those labels with white permanent marker and so. Well, and then I built Polyvox VCF from one French company. I do not recall, Barele synthesizers or something, but it did not sound particularly nice. Right. So I decided I need to build the thing which is closer to Polyvox VCF. I found original schematics, and I found also the original chips. Interesting enough, we have an open market here in Riga where you can get electronic parts, including those chips. So I built a filter. It sounded amazing. And then I published it on Muff Wigglers and considered making it available as DIY kit, which I did. And I went to that guy who sold me those chips, and I asked, how many of those you have? He said, well, I have unlimited supply. Then in a month, he ran out of his unlimited supply. So I thought, well, I have to close up my hobby as a business or something. But then by some coincidence, I found that Factory Alpha here in Riga actually makes those chips. So then I got unlimited supply. And then module by module, I made all Polyvox synthesizer blocks as a DIY kits. And then I realized that, well, maybe it's time to make it as a business. And on 2014, we had our first factory-produced module, which was sequential switch. And then same year we went to Music Messe.
Yes.
And that was our first public appearance internationally. Was totally crazy trip. Because we went there on a bus, which means on a van, which means it took 24 hours to get there to Frankfurt.
God,
and we had huge installation, because we did not know that such a Superbooth existed, and we did not have retailers yet. So we bring our installation there. We had 3x3 dedicated space booth on the first floor next to some pianos and wind
surrounded by accordions and brass instruments and things like that music messers seem to do a lot of.
Yeah, and the Superbooth was on the second floor. So I occasionally went there and figured out that, well, there is an entire community of modular synthesizers. But we were only ones who had black front panels back then. So guys from modular companies came downstairs and said, well, who would buy that?
Really? That's interesting. Yes. Was it blanket silver? Was that the
that was the industry standard, was silver. Silver panels,
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I remember that, because I had to work Music Messe back in the day, and I remember the Superbooth there being just walls of silver and lights. That's all I remember of it. That is interesting. So, I mean, you're still a young company then. I mean, that was only 6 years ago.
Yeah, we legally, company was established on October 1. 2013,
right?
But all team in place was on September 1st of September 2015, because by some coincidence I left my primary work in advertising. Our designer Yanis, his contract with the Institute of Nuclear Physics expired, and Codec moved to Riga same year from his hometown, and he had nothing to do. So all of a sudden the team was in place.
Like an alignment of stars or something. All these things came together at once.
Yeah. So, and here we are.
Yeah. Wow, that's quite a story. I mean, it's fascinating, because one assumes that everyone comes through a similar path, that you are interested in music, then you're interested in synths, then you're interested in Eurorack, and it moves from there. It's just really interesting to hear how your passion for engineering comes from another place, just from a place of messing about, and then this is where you find yourself. It's remarkable. Do you do all the designs of your modules yourself?
There are people who do designs way better than I do.
Yeah.
I do not consider myself an engineer, but let's say I run company, and I started it, found friends who joined, and we are actually 3 partners in company. So me, Codec, and Yanis. So we all are partners in a company, and then we have 4 other colleagues who work full time.
Nice.
Yeah, but everyone in a company has found somehow organically has found his place where he is the best in what he does, and
Nice. So, do you have any particular memories of Superbooth's past that stay with you? When Schneidersladen first announced Superbooth, that was
standalone Superbooth.
Yes.
We were, I guess, if not the first, then one of the first who agreed to participate. And afterwards, Herr Schneider commented that, well, we did not hesitate a second when he asked if we would be interested to take place in a Superbooth. And so I can say we are one of Superbooth pioneers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the first one was in different location. It was Funk House, or I do not
That's
recall
right.
it. Yeah, but that was this East Berlin studio, broadcasting studio with all spying equipment formerly installed, and an amazing hall for live recordings. I really enjoy Superbooth. Is nowadays it's massive,
Yes.
and but every synth event is such a great place to meet our friendly competitors. Or I actually do not treat anyone in Eurorack as a competitor, because I more tend to cooperate than to compete. But and then when some new colleagues joined us and went to Superbooth, so they asked, "Well, guys, why are you hugging everyone?" because I'm happy to meet them again.
Yeah. No, that's lovely. It does have such a community feel. There's nothing quite like it. Having worked, I mean, I've done NAMM for many years, and Music Messe and other shows, music shows around the UK when I used to work in music retail, and no, there's nothing like it at all. It's a completely different vibe to anything that I've come across before.
And also the smaller regional events as well.
Yes.
Again, different vibe, more personal, and you get to know people, and all of a sudden you realize you're kind of celebrity.
Oh, but it's a small it's a small community, though.
Absolutely. We went
nice
with Elisa. We went. Last year we went to Malmö in Sweden for Susan Kiani concert, which was organized by a friend of ours who runs some creative community place, and we contributed some system to his to that studio, which is open studio, and so we went there, and before concert we had lunch with Susan Kiani. Absolutely brilliant person, and then before we entered the hall, like 3-4 people approached me and said, "Girts, I'm so happy to meet you here, and how did you get here?" and so on. So of course I met them sometime, but I meet so many people, so many persons that I cannot remember every single one in face. But,
sure. People don't mind.
Yeah, but it's so. It's like a gratitude for me that there are people who value what I do.
Yeah. Oh, certainly, yes. Let's take a moment, shall we, just have a look in the chat to see if there's any burning questions, because they've been beavering away in here while listening to your life story, which has been brilliant. I might also open my beer as well, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
So
maybe I will answer the question which probably will pop up. Yes, the black sequencer is in development. It's we have piles of black sequencer in a factory manufactured, so waiting for firmware. So investment is done already, and as the baseline is completed, we will focus on that one next month, like right after Superbooth.
So how's the response been to the baseline? Because that's is that a would you call that a departure for you? I suppose. I mean, there's been other things like the Zen delay, the desktop fusion bits and pieces. You know, you've done a. Ooh, look at that! You've done a bit. Hang on, I'll just make that. There we go. Yeah. Look at that.
Yeah, it's a different market, of course, because as a first desktop unit, we all of a sudden are in different kind of ocean already.
Yes.
But I'm really happy we made it, because Modular has its pros, and likewise it has cons and drawbacks. Everybody knows all this patching thing and no memory recall and stuff. You know? And sometimes you want something small or something dedicated, and the baseline is therefore there.
Yeah.
And we see that we need to even revise our manufacturing procedures, because like average run of the module is like 200, 300 units, like first run, and then in some like couple of months and maybe in half a year, depending on the module, we make another run. But this one, that's different, and that's that's very encouraging, of course.
So are you seeing the potential for a wider market, is what you're saying? So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Do you think there will be a drum machine to follow it? These things, I'm just saying, they tend to come in pairs. You know, you have a bass line, you have a drum machine. I wonder.
I mean, how politicians tend to say that I will not deny it, and I will not confirm it yet.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because of course you have your techno system, which is mostly drums.
Yeah.
Isn't it? So yeah, that's not too much of a stretch. Look at that. Okay, you heard it here first, I think.
Yeah, but I really like how they say form factor of the baseline, because it's very compact. It's not Volca yet. It's not as small as Volcas, but it's not too large again so it can fit in nicely in compact setups, and it sounds huge.
You like those particular sort of Bakelite knobs, don't you? That feels important. I don't think. I mean, if it was Volca size, you'd have to start using non-Erica knobs, and that wouldn't do. That wouldn't do at all.
Absolutely. And when we design instruments, we make sure that they are that the person can stand on it. You know, I can take this one and I can just step on it and reach for some upper shelf or something. And also all potentiometers, you know, when they are properly fixed, you know, when you have large knobs and as per our design philosophy also in Eurorack modules, larger knobs always are assigned to functions that make the most difference. So obviously it's cut off, and we use parts and knobs of quality which will not wear out in months, in year, or probably in decades of using them.
Yeah, there is a question in the chat. It's to ask if you have any advice for people starting a new modular company. What Do you have any pitfalls or things you wish you'd do differently, or any key bits of advice for someone who's trying to start it now? I mean, obviously the environment that we are currently in is not ideal for that kind of business, but we have to soldier on. And any advice for that?
Well, first, I definitely would advise to start a Euro company, because that means exports. I would never survive on a domestic market, and actually I never considered Latvia as a market for us. Yes, we have developed very nice community, and a lot of people got excited about this thing we started. And before actually I started the company, there was almost no modular synthesizers in Latvia. I guess there is one, but nobody knows a person who has one. And so sometimes people ask, what's a modular community in Latvia? And those all are my friends, and I know every modular user personally. So therefore, you can imagine the market is really, really small. Yeah. So first, modular means exports. So you can sell your stuff outside.
Yeah.
Also, I am very lucky to be here in Latvia, because I believe Latvia has the best infrastructure in the world for electronics manufacturing. We have
how interesting.
Yeah, we have 6 factories which provide services for electronics assembly. We have this compatibility testing facilities which can test electronic devices. So, and I invited some companies, and they moved their production actually from China to Latvia, and we introduced a few companies to this testing company. So they do tests here because you can do them straight away. You do not have to wait for a couple of months, and you do not pay. You need to pay like 5 times more as it here, and so. But yeah, excuse me.
No, I was going to say, so have you not really been affected by China closing down? So, I mean, are you doing all your manufacturing locally?
The supplies are a problem, because typically we got like potentiometers we order from Taiwan Alpha, and usual lead time is like 40-50 days. So now I ordered a batch of potentiometers on February. And we are expecting them end May in best case scenario.
Right,
so
yes.
yeah, so there could be some delays with some modules or instruments, unfortunately. Yeah, but answering the question, I started everything on Muff Wigglers. So yeah, I just started on forums, Muff Wigglers and electro music, but mostly Muff Wigglers. And you can test your concept there. So if there is an interest, then that means that you are doing something right. If people are skeptical, you just try something else. You can run a crowdfunding campaign, because back then there were no platforms like Kickstarter or Indiegogo to check your concepts or developments. So yeah, long story short, my advice is use forums to check your concepts, and do not drop your idea to start a company if you do not succeed for first time.
Yeah. What do you think of a platform like VCV Rack as a place to, I don't know, develop ideas, or to try things out? Do you think a virtual version of modules is a valid way to start the design process?
I was happy to meet a couple of years ago, not last year, but the year before. I met Rafael, who digitalized a couple of our modules for VCV Rack. And the possibilities in VCV Rack, they are enormous. You can design this virtual module and see what other options are and how impossible modules can be on VCV Rack, because you do not have to physically make them.
Yes.
But I tried VCV Rack. It's interesting, but for me, it's not there, because I like this physical feel and it takes a lot of resources from a computer or PC. Like Kodak has top grade gaming computer here, but it still lags awfully when he patches up something on VCV Rack. And
yeah, that is interesting. I mean, I've come from a software space. I've worked in software music technology for years and years and years and years before starting my modular journey, and it's very much getting completely fed up with this narrow view to the point of a mouse, and how everything I was doing was just coming out of this little finger clicking around on things. It seemed ridiculous to think about it. And so, when I opened myself up to hardware and started gradually moving out of the box, I can use VCV Rack for a little while, but ultimately it's like, I just don't want to sit here and do this. I want to walk around over here and walk over here and mess about with that, and then walk over here and mess around with that. That's just more, I don't know. It's more human somehow.
And there are sometimes students come to our headquarters and they are amazed about what we do here and how this all stuff looks. But then definitely there is someone who asks, but why don't you make this on computer? Because you can do, and you can do way more on any software, music editing software, but that's not a feeling you want from an instrument.
I agree. No, totally.
And the physical instruments, they give you back. You input something and you have this response from the instrument, which is not the case with computer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you just keep. I mean, from my point of view, I just keep fiddling until I find something to work. That's very hard on a computer. I find random clicking at things never really gets you anywhere. Whereas, you can just take a case not working, try something else, just adjust. Oh, and then something happens.
And it relaxes you as well, because computer, you need to focus. Your eyes get tired and you sit in front of computer all the time, and that's not healthy.
No, it's not.
If you have decent size system, you have to stand up, you have to move around.
I mean, something I wanted to ask you about actually is education, because I know that you've done some workshops with people like Modular Moon over in Amsterdam. And other things like that, and it seems to be something that you're really into. Can you tell us more about what you do in that sort of space?
Actually, I used to be physics teacher. In early 90s, I graduated university as a physics teacher, and then I worked in school, which was actually art school. So I taught there physics, mathematics, then chemistry, then arts teacher who was giving lessons on jewelry, because that was art school. So metal art and something. So he left, and I took some courses for that after university because I wanted something beautiful after physics. I took courses in jewelry, and I was good enough to be a teacher in that as well.
Excellent.
Yeah, and being teacher is one of is, I believe, the most responsible job you can do, because you show the path for children, path for life, what they could do in life, and I was kind of non-conformist teacher because I was young. I was like 22 or something. So I said, well, let's make the radio studio in our school. So we made a radio studio. We actually built amplifiers ourselves. We installed all speakers all around the school, and students run the radio station. But the nice thing is that 4 of them became DJs, and they organized a DJ group, which was back like in early 2000s. That was the most important DJ culture group in Latvia, and so therefore, if you can do something for education to show kids something great and maybe inspire them to take some reasonable direction in their lives afterwards, that's a great thing to do.
Yeah, it is. I mean, many of us are kind of getting that opportunity at the moment through the amount of homeschooling that's going on. All having our children, well, certainly in the UK, having our children at home because the schools are closed. And it is fascinating working through, because my wife's a teacher, so we're very fortunate. So she already knows what she's doing, and the kids have plenty of stuff to be getting on with. But it is interesting. I've taken the time to my oldest son, who's 13, who came with me to Superbooth a couple of times. I've sat him down. We've done some soldering together. Got him to build a little synthesizer. I've been through sort of processes like that, and it's just brilliant. I mean, it's difficult to try to understand where their head is, and are you finding this interesting? All we can really do, I find, is show people stuff in the hope that they find that inspirational. Because it seems you can't force your kids to do all the things you want them to do, like learn guitar by the time they're 4, learn computers by the time they're 8, that kind of thing. It has to happen in its own time. But I think you're right. I would love to be taking modular stuff around schools. I mean, when my kids come back and talk about their physics class or their science class, and they're talking about sound or learning about sound, and it's like, well, if they would let me, I would bring this in and I could explain how a wave works, what a sine wave is, how that functions, what that sounds like, what you can do to that, talk about frequencies and actually relate it to something that makes some kind of sense,
Yeah, and the modular synthesizer in that sense is very nice thing that bridges physics and science with music. Because at least in Latvia, Latvian education system is very good of making people hate music. And this is the case with my son. He turned 18 2 days ago.
Wow.
And he really hated music lessons. And then I said, well, we have plenty of DIY kits. Make your own modular synthesizer, and this is actually how we tested complexity of our DIY kits. Because nice. if somebody complains that, well, I have a lot of experience, I built your kit, but it doesn't work because something must be wrong there. Yes. I say, well, my 16-year-old son built it it worked straight away. So that's a benchmark.
No, that's good.
Yeah. And he built a system. He performed it in a music lesson, and those kids are amazed with this link of technology to music and how you can treat music differently. Our colleague is a music teacher as well. He joined us this year as a customer support person, and he also brings Pico system to school, and he really has mastered Multilux. He has performed actually on a Gespräch concert a couple of years ago on Superbooth. He's a musician as well, and he says, well, this is how you can get students interested in music.
See, it's really interesting because it wouldn't have been long ago when it was the computer that was doing that. You know, you would demonstrate Reason, or you demonstrate Reactor, or you demonstrate some other piece of software, or even GarageBand for that matter, and it would blow people's minds, you know. But software has become so ubiquitous, so sort of boring somehow, that in order to push them out of their comfort zone or their what they're used to seeing, lumping down a piece of hardware is completely out of their experience. You know, they don't handle things like that at all. Bare circuitry, they never see, unless something's broken, they never see a PCB.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, a synthesizer actually develops your cognitive skills, our cognitive skills, because you have to actually turn knobs. Like I was blown away when my ex-colleague, we met to have lunch, and she had her 3-year-old son, or he was 2-year-old or something. In order not to disturb our conversation, she gave him iPhone, of course, and he mastered the iPhone, you know, straight away. But I had one module with me, so I gave him a module, and I showed, well, here's a switch, you can flip the switch, you can turn knobs. But he was pushing the knobs. I said, well, you can turn them. But he was pushing them harder because his cognitive skills back then were limited to pushing the touch screen. Yeah. And that's terrible. Yeah, but talking about education.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, tying that into some DIY, because I have been asked previously to ask you about what's going on with the DIY range. So I believe those two things coincide. So tell us more.
Yeah, we announced that we are discontinuing our DIY line because it's on one hand it's our legacy, and the company started from DIY, but nowadays DIY is so widespread, and I guess it went into wrong direction, meaning that most of DIY kits even do not come with schematics. People build DIY kits just to save some money, sacrificing their time, but still, you know, you can build like really decent synthesis. Timo Rosenthal, one of my first clients, and when we met a couple of years ago in person, so we were so happy that happened, because he was one of my first clients who bought a Polyvox kit, and other way around, he started his DIY journey from that Polyvox kit, and now he builds, his system consists only exclusively of DIY. So he rejects taking any factory built module. Well, but the point is that most of DIY kits do not come even with schematics. So people who build kits, they have no idea what they are building and what's going on there. No, I can
contribute to that, absolutely, because that is my experience. I mean, I thoroughly enjoy building DIY kits, but I am aware that I'm not really learning a whole lot. I'm learning how to solder. I'm gradually learning to trace things about on a PCB, but I still don't know how a filter works. I still don't know how, what things are supposed to go where. I mean, I know that people talk about, oh yeah, you could replace the resistor with a higher value resistor. And it's like, could I? Why? How? Why? I wouldn't even know where to start to look at that. And so I totally understand what you're saying. I mean, on the one hand, I would say that does lower the bar of entry. It gives people access, so you can build a DIY module without having to know anything.
Yeah. And it's a great hobby.
And there's something great in that. But I am certainly finding over the time that I'd like to know more. I would like to know more. I'd like to understand more. And I also know that at some point a big load of troubleshooting is going to come my way. And I want to be better prepared to be able to work that out. Or with my Decker's Dream journey, discovering that all the photos and the build guide had disappeared, I was suddenly left only with the BOM and the silk screen, which isn't bad. But people were saying, well, look at the schematics. It's like, I don't really know where to start to look at the schematics. So I just wanted to interject that because I understand what you mean. But carry on. Yes, keep going.
I mean, and it goes to that extent that people are lazy to learn color codes on resistors, which is devastating for nature, because if you get a full kit from Tonk, they have each resistor value packed in individual small plastic bag. And when the kit is completed, you have like literally a pile of plastic bags. I really admire what Steve does with Tonk and how it's how he contributes to this DIY scene and so on. I treat him as a good friend of mine. But somebody has to break this stupidity of not educating people, or not at least encouraging to take deeper look on what they do. If you navigate to Music from Outer Space website, so there is description how the circuit works. But those circuits, they are too complex for a beginner to even start to get idea, how it works. Therefore, we decided to cut our current DIY product line, which were absolutely great modules and DIY kits. You could build like really nice sounding synthesizer, a monster system if you wish. And we decided to make different kind of DIY kits specifically dedicated to education, meaning that each kit will come with extensive like a booklet on how this instrument works, why, what each part of schematics do, how can you alter schematics, what measurements you can do to make sure that this schematic works, and when it stops working. So it's kind of laboratory work in physics, in electronics, where you are challenged to do those alterations or to check, what happens if you change something, or but still you can make a module. So what we consider, we will make a bunch. At the moment, we have 10 different modules, very basic schematics, so that a person who has no idea about electronics can understand, if he wants to, can understand how it works, why it works, how it can work better. And for instance, VCOs possibly will not track 8 octaves, but they will track, for instance, 2 octaves. But the building process and process of understanding the circuit must be superior in this case. That basically we will target electronics after-school lessons and people who just want to get into electronics. And what also I aim to have those kits very affordable. And our idea is to make them Euro compatible, but they will be powered from only plus 12 volts. So you can build very affordable system because you do not need these power supplies. You just can take any plus 12 volt supply and run a module. And we have we have a first prototype here already. So it's a sequencer. It's 8-step sequencer, but the interesting thing is that you can create this is Erica Synths education.
Okay,
yeah. But apart from sequencing music, you can learn like basic coding in a binary system, and because there are switches which set load code and comparison code, so you basically design a pattern by entering code into those logic chips, which define what pattern is played here on a sequencer. And there are a lot of test points. The user manual will provide all timing diagrams for chips, so you can measure what happens in specific test points when you flip the switch, and you know what will happen because you have read manual, and so on, so on. So apart from sequencing music, so 8-step sequencer was very interesting. I just completed it, and we are making a next version with some improvements. Apart from sequencing music, you can learn binary code, and you can learn how logic chips work using this sequencer.
Well, you've got to tick a lot of STEM boxes these days. I think to get into education, the more boxes you can tick, the better. In order to get schools and colleges and those sorts of things to take those sorts of things on. But that's fascinating. Yeah. How many sort of modules do you think there's going to be, or is it going to be an ongoing development?
Yeah, we have at the moment we have I guess 10 modules. We want again complete system. So we will have VCO, we will have VCF, we will have a basic mixer, we will have VCA, we will have yeah, Tuna wants to. We'll have an open source module with a chip you can program yourself, so you can invent what functions you want to have, and then learn basics of coding as well. So, and you can program your chip and install in the module. So, yeah, we aim for a complete synthesizer based on very simple modules with simple schematics, and most importantly, we will make them really affordable so that educational institutions are encouraged to get them as well.
That sounds brilliant. That sounds totally brilliant. Yeah, that sounds really exciting. So, I mean, I'm always on the lookout for, as I say, I did some soldering with my oldest, and I'd like that to develop through all three of my children at some point, because I think it can be a fascinating journey for kids to get onto. Yeah, something real, something hot, something slightly dangerous, something that makes noise. All of these things are really, really good.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, any burning questions in the chat? People really have just been bubbling along, sort of talking and making comments. There's been no particularly burning questions. Somebody wanted to know what your favourite Motorhead track is.
Orgasmatron.
There we go.
Actually, a couple of years ago, when Lemmy Kilmister passed away, I said my friends, colleagues, said, "Well, guys, when we will when we'll have some money, let's install a monument for Lemmy Kilmister in front of our office, like a 2.5 meter tall bronze statue."
Wow.
And because he was such a great guy, everybody has his addictions or specifics, like personality specifics, but he was honest, and that's a great thing. He was just honest person, and very simple person. So and there was very interesting coincidences just months or two ago, because Igor Cavalera from Sepultura appeared in our office, and he knew Lemmy Kilmister personally. So afterwards he sent me pendant with this Motorhead symbol, which Lemmy Kilmister gave him as a gift.
Oh, brilliant!
Yeah. So Igor, if you're watching this, then thank you for that. He has Modular as well. So he has actually, with his wife, they have electronics duo, drums plus Modular, obviously, because he was drummer. He was founder of Sepultura. And so that means that we will make this project happen soon. So most probably we will run a crowdfunding campaign, and we already have a sketch of the monument. We have an agreement with landlords, and they are happy to have this monument here, because that could be a place of pilgrimage.
Yeah, that's quite brilliant. I mean, maybe all the money that you save from not going to Superbooth, so you could put that in a jar.
Yeah, we have a sculptor already who can make that thing happen. So in a year or year and a half, I guess we'll have a monument in place.
Yeah, that sounds like that's going to happen. Yeah. So you mentioned before we came on that you could give us a bit of a tour of your studio. Would that be possible?
Oh yes, because I'm streaming from a laptop, so we can go on some tour in our studio. I'm not sure if this is actually Codec's place. So this is his demo rack with
nice.
Then we have Syntrex. That's a background he installed for me before he left. This is his gaming computer.
Oh yeah.
It's his place. Then, sorry, Yanis, I'm showing your desk. So this is desk of Yanis, who is our engineer, and he works now on. It looks like updates for the baseline. And this is Syntrex MIDI board, because we are developing some advanced MIDI implementation there. So this is more of technical mess. Then there is another room. Where is the Tuna? I left him. There is another room. This is Marta's place. She leaves everything in perfect order, and so Marta, you met her, didn't you?
I did at Synthfest, I think. Yeah.
And I admire her for having such multiple personalities. Even she's the only professionally trained musician. She graduated Academy of Music in Riga, where my daughter is studying now. Yeah. And she has two musical incarnations, Marta Smilga and Asterix Untitled. Asterix Untitled is pure noise stuff. Then we have Emil's place. Emil's is in charge of technical support or customer support. So this is our testing rack. So if some return products come back, then he installs them in our in this rack and tests and checks. And also we are now working on having B-stock modules checked, so we can offer them at lower price.
Well, it doesn't look too full up, so you can't be doing too bad.
There are a lot of boxes because we didn't do that for long, and then when Emil's joined, then we took proper care of that. Yeah, that's tuna. Then we have Wall of Fame.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so musicians who were in our office, like Mark Verbos. Then we have there on down here. We have Tatsuya, Mark Verbos. We have Ingmar from Liquid Sky Berlin. We have Igor Cavalera. We have Pedro Estache. He had a great performance in. We produced a performance with a symphony orchestra here in Riga. And this is the first mass-produced module. That's Erica Synths sequential switch. So I put it in a frame.
Brilliant.
And then we have here show-off studio. Not studio, but a wall. That's
nice. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's quite large. Just to have a comparison. Some of our modules, and then there are modules we swapped with others, and then some are like a lot of them are actually DIY ones, and so. Tuna again. So, and downstairs we have some. We have helmets.
Oh, so how's your ride? I've seen your Erica Synths bike on Instagram.
We have 6 bikes in our office in the garage.
Nice.
Yeah. Almost everybody has a bike here. So Yanis has I do have several bikes. Kodek has, and 2 our colleagues are passing the driver's exam soon.
Great.
Then I'm in our live stream studio where we used to stream our garage events. At the moment,
look like they'd be very loud.
That's 2 kilowatt system. So
yeah.
in order to test modular synthesizers and any instrument, actually you need a proper system, because earphones, the best studio speakers, will not give you proper feel, how it will sound when you go out to play in a club or in a venue, other venue. And then we have our Residency Studio, which we which we built for people to have an access to some unique instruments. So I have a Buchla 100 system here,
Wow.
all DIYs. This is a LA67 musical instruments. Modular Addict sells those, yeah. And then there is a Buchla 200 system, all DIY, which I built from Roman's kits, Black Corporation. Then we have some 5U thing, also all DIY. Then we have Surge. Again, some are random source, some are those larger panels, also DIY. Very inspiring instrument, like really, really distinctive sounding instrument. And
have you thought of doing other formats? Has that been something that's you've considered doing?
No. No, we have one interesting collaboration with Moon Modular, because they adopted our stereo delay for 5U under their brand. Right. But no, we will not go to different formats. Yeah, this ARP clone, and then we have Yoctos and Navas, which I'm happy we made, because we started collaboration with Electronic, and ultimately made a techno system in collaboration with them.
Oh,
yeah,
that's right. Yeah,
yeah. This is French company, and when we started this collaboration, so I was receiving emails from them at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I thought, well, it's not French, because taking into account time difference, so that means they wake up and go to the office at 7. So I said, well, Vincent, what time do you start work? He said, well, actually, I'm not in France. I'm in Reunion Island. So they developed these things in Reunion Island, and then I searched, because I heard that such island exists, but I never actually searched it. That's paradise on the earth. I highly encourage to search Reunion. It's next to Madagascar.
Oh, right, wow.
Yeah, it's next to Madagascar, but it's a French colony. So you can get baguettes there. You can, euro is a currency there. So it's amazing. Yeah, so that was quick tour. Then we have some some small storage rooms and stuff. But we renovated the house, and everybody who comes to our office, they kind of envy us about the location and the place. And then
So, are you in town or country? Are you in sort of urban?
We are in almost in a city center, but it's kind of peninsula next to the river, and right. It used to be area of Riga commercial port. So nothing much happened here. So the feeling actually here is as on countryside. Yeah, and then we have Contactor Festival to promote electronic and experimental music. Unfortunately, we had to cancel it. We had two festivals on 2018, 2019. It's last Friday of May. But obviously this year it will not happen. But we decided to move the same lineup to the next year, and that's a drawing of a friend of mine, Nina Elektrichka. She's one of most famous DJs, but but she's also very much in art, and
Wow.
and she did this drawing on the office wall. Actually, we have more there.
So do you think you'll ever release anything in pink?
we had Simona Acid VCF, which was a special edition of
Oh, you
Polyvox.
did, yeah. Yes, that's right.
And there are some modules behind me. Like if somebody comes to our office, so there are almost all modules in the shelf. Few of each module we have, but most of stuff is stored in warehouse in a logistics company we cooperate with. So basically, we do not see like every single module in our office, because we bring them directly from our factory to the logistics company, and
Oh, well, that was awesome. Thank you for that. That was really good. Fascinating to see, particularly all the old stuff you got in your basement. That's amazing. I mean, do you use those things as inspiration? I mean, that's a good question. Where do your module ideas come from, and do you have a plan of where to go from here?
I adore DIY because that's my meditation. So I built at least 1,000 different modules and instruments over a course of like 10, 12 years. But each instrument gives you some inspiration in terms of user interface, in terms of sound, in terms of what was the intention behind it, and we have agreed that we do not start development if we do not see that we can do something completely different or something radically better than you can find on market. For instance,
Yes.
Black Sequencer. I'm sorry that it's not released yet, but the Black Sequencer is the answer to logical sequence. I mean, we wanted to bring classical sequencing into contemporary modular, meaning that the feel is as you have on a classical sequencer, but all features and possibilities you can do with a sequencer are the most contemporary and maybe even future-looking. And inspiration. It's interesting that we are a team of so diverse personalities. Engineers, musicians, some creative minds, and people who see things, and those ideas just sometimes pop. Like we have idea for one very, very distinct instrument which we wanted to show on Superbooth, but the idea popped in mind 2 weeks ago. And actually I soldered prototypes today, but we dropped the idea of showing it. But technically we could complete it actually and then show some ideas how it works or how it's intended to work today or tomorrow. But yeah, that would require too much effort.
Yeah.
It would not be completed. Yeah, but this idea just appeared, and of course we check if it's valid, if it's really unique, what we can do better, and yeah, from my perspective, user interface is the thing that sets an instrument apart, because you can always argue about sound, about about maybe some connectivity or how much modulation you can have, and stuff. But the pleasure of using the instrument, I believe that's superior.
Yes.
So if instrument does not inspire creativity, or if it does not draw you in, then there is something wrong. And I hate wrong things. I can straight away, that's maybe from my experience in advertising agency, I can straight away identify what's wrong. For instance, you can take an electrical teapot, a boiler, and some Chinese company has made like tens of millions of those. And when you pour the water in a cup, it pours everywhere but in a cup because nobody just tried how it works. and therefore, actually, we invest a lot into development, and we never use 3D visualizations. For instance, for baseline, we did like 2 or 3 revisions of the baseline, and only when you make an actual thing, when you touch, when you rotate knobs, when you try how sequencer works, are knobs in the right positions, are they in right sizes, and so only then you can say that will it work or not. Now 3D visualization will bring you that feel of actual instrument, and therefore I do not regret spending money on making several revisions of actual hardware, which is costly, but it's definitely worth doing.
Is that sort of how your approach to the Syntrix and the Matrix on that, and how that's what was the thinking behind that, moving from the pin to the, I don't know, I haven't seen one close enough up to know exactly how that functions.
Right, it's a bit too much light. So basically, you have a cursor pin, and you can move it by encoder.
Okay. Yeah.
And then you push the encoder, and you make a pin connection there. And the good, nice thing about this particular matrix is that it has, in each connection, it has 3 levels of attenuation. So you can push it once, you have it gain 1, then 0.7 and 0.3, and then it's off. So you make connections just by navigating the cursor pin and push the encoder, and then you can save and recall patches, obviously, and so. And that's a proper mixer matrix. There are some modules based on switch, like switch matrix IC. So there is a integrated circuit which has a lot of switches inside, and you mechanically connect those connections. But that means that you just mechanically connect outputs of 2 oscillators in like twisting wires together.
Yes. Which
is not mixing. But this one does proper mixing. And that allows to save patches. And actually, our second factory manufactured module was matrix mixer with a touch screen. So and that was overkill, because back then we did not know much about Eurorack. We had and it was hugely expensive to produce, because we wanted to have mixing, not just one IC that connects patch points. And we used Maxim chips, 24 Maxim chips, which each cost like €5 or something for those connections and so. And but it was expensive to produce. It had different drawbacks of mechanical drawbacks and so on. So we discontinued the module. But that was our first approach to get laptops off the performance desks. Because my initial intention was that Modular has to be self-contained. So you do not need external interfaces or external controllers to control it, or laptops to sequence it.
Yes.
So yeah, and that somehow evolved into the matrix we have on a Syntrax.
Yeah.
But obviously it's hugely inspired by EMS Synthi and like user interface. And I really believe that this is one of the most creative synthesizers. Of course, all circuitry is redesigned from scratch, designed from scratch in this one in Syntrax. But the user interface and idea how the synthesizer is patched and managed basically is the same, and it's hugely inspiring.
Very interesting. My boss used to have a Putney sitting on his desk at Turnkey back in London where I worked, and it was always fascinating. I mean, you'd flick a switch as you go past. You'd never spend any time in his office. You were never allowed. But there's always it's something which is lodged in my head as a synthesizer of weight. It was like it was put there as a threat to you when you walked into his office, that he has the power because he has this synthesizer.
That's a legendary machine, and
yes,
and when we publish some demos of Syntrax, and there are comments on YouTube that it sounds not remotely close to the original one. That was not our intention to sound as an original one. Our intention was to have this creative feeling of musical creativity of original one. But Codec, when he filmed the demo, he searched literally every Synthi or Putney demo on YouTube to find what is that like
what is it supposed to sound like?
Yes. And if you do your search, you will not get anything but beep 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 blah, blah, blah. So nobody makes proper sounds with Synthi. Of course, exception is On the Run sequence, Pink Floyd, and because that's must try on this kind of synthesizer. But that's basically it from musical perspective.
Yeah. So is there anything you haven't been able to achieve musically, technologically, that you've pursued?
I believe we do difficult things or challenging things. We do fast. Impossible takes a bit longer.
Yeah, it's a good line.
So, we just started a company. It just took off. Every year when we like make a summary of a year, we realized that if we split out all modules which we launched, or all instruments we launched that year, that means that we launched an instrument per week.
Wow.
It's roughly 40-50 different units we launch every year, and with each one we realize what we did right, because there are a lot of modules that do not sell because they are for instance, we have very advanced CV management module, CV tools. Really nice one, but it doesn't make sound. It doesn't make nice effects. So it doesn't sell because people want to have instant gratification, and Pico drums give instant gratification. Like DSP module, just put any signal in, tweak knobs, and you have ambient soundscapes and stuff.
Yes.
And
yeah, that's what we want. That's what we're after.
So over these years, we have realized what we have to focus on, but still we need satellite modules to complete systems, for instance. And therefore, we're still investing in things which will not sell straight away, but which will make a system complete, for instance. But a baseline was a pioneer for some desktop units. Of course, we will come up with some more desktop things.
Yeah, that would be really interesting. Do you continue to work with Liquid Sky? Is that something that's an ongoing project?
Ingmar is a good friend of ours. He helped a lot when we started. We helped a lot with PR, with media support. He has absolutely crazy ideas about instruments.
Yeah, because I heard today that that Liquid Sky Instruments is something which he's rolling around and looking for developers for and things like that, which is very, very, very interesting.
Zen Delay was really nice. Is really nice collaboration with Liquid Sky and Ninja Tune. It's amazing effects unit, and we did not believe ourselves that we can do it, because people do delays since late 90s, 80s, and there is huge heritage and legacy and know-how in that. So we basically developed Zen Delay from scratch, and it's amazing. And every review says that, well, this is one of best sounding effects units, meaning delay, filter, distortion thing.
Yeah, I think it's there's a lot of interesting cross movement between different boutique industries, because you've got the guitar pedal industry on one side of things, you've got Eurorack at the other side. A lot of people's desks are starting to fill up with these little boxes. First of all, it starts off being guitar pedals. You bring those up and plug those in, but then more and more people are bringing out sometimes still pedals, but ones which work well on the desktop. And I think it's interesting how these communities have affected each other, and they both help each other grow, because guitar pedals can get a little bit samey after a while, but there's been such a huge rise in those because a broader spectrum of people are starting to use them and starting to demand facilities and the way that you interact them more than just with a heavy boot hitting a switch. So it's, I think, and there's been a lot of thinking from guitar pedals, which has come very much into Eurorack, because a lot of people came from that before they started building on the Euro side. So it's really interesting how the desktop has become this space of incredible little hardware boxes. There's absolutely a huge market for people plugging those things into each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And one sometimes you need to consider quality over quantity. Yes. Yes. Sometimes you see Eurorack gigs, live gigs, or guys playing guitar pedals, and they have hundreds of modules and hundreds of pedals on the floor, but the output is not there. And that was our personal challenge when we developed a Pico system, one particularly. We wanted to have this 42 HP box, which can keep audience attention for a 1 hour long gig without getting bored, without getting without a musician repeating himself. And that is a case. If you approach creatively Pico system, then you can play proper gig and it sounds huge. It sounds okay. There are just 2 voices and there are a couple of drums, but the impression is like sometimes comparable to huge shelf of modules you sometimes see on a stage. And like in that sense, our colleague Multilux, he has a garage performance. If you check our website section garage, there is Multilux on Pico system. And this Pico system is so small on this performance desk, and he is so much into it. And he does miracles with that one. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. I've told this story a few times. One of the things that inspired me when I was starting off in Eurorack was a Modular on the Roof video on YouTube. And it was just a guy with a little lunchbox that had a single voice in it and a sequence that just went round. And it was the same sequence. It went round for about 20 minutes, but it was just brilliant. Somehow it moved and it modulated, and it, he was doing things with it that were just extraordinary. And he had nothing, and my experience of building my own bits and pieces here is that it gets big and then it gets small. And then, the first gig you do, you take 1 row, the next gig it's 2 rows, then it becomes 3 rows and it's all pre-patched, and it gets so stressful somehow that you have to break it back down again and realize that actually I'm not really using this bit and this bit and this bit. It makes no odds. And it's in keeping it simple. I mean, you need a spread of modules because you like the variety. That's fine, but when it actually comes to trying to perform something, it's definitely more interesting to keep it small, to keep it compact, because you work these things so much harder. It's like when I'm reviewing a module, when I'm working on a single module, it amazes me what I can get out of that module.
Exactly.
When normally if I'm trying to make a piece of music, I'm playing all this, plug this in, route this over here. But actually focusing on one thing is fascinating, and you spend the day and just have a marvelous time with a single module. With a couple of things plugged into it, sure, but keeping that focus is really interesting.
I'm also trying to limit myself when I assembly the performance rack. I try to limit myself with 2 times 104 HP, and same codec does, and same our colleague Marta does. That we have a travel case, and you assembly sometimes a system just for specific gig. You do not repeat yourself with the same system. You do not go to this next performance with the same system. You just change something because you realize that, something could be done better. Maybe, I can more capitalize on that thing or whatever. But ultimately, we try to limit ourselves within a travel case of 2 times 104 HP. If you fail to do that, then possibly you're doing something wrong.
But then you start releasing wide modules like the drum computer or the sequencer, and then they start eating into your possibilities, don't they?
But again, there is always like this compromise between size of the module and functionality, because like Black Sequencer. It takes place, but it has 4 tracks. It has a modulation track. It can replace 4 envelope generators because we have built-in envelope generators that sync to gate lengths, to sync to ratchets. If you ratchet a gate, an external envelope generator would not ratchet because the decay time is longer than your ratchet time, and so on. So if you sacrifice some space for a larger module, then that is your well-considered decision because it does more.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I mean, it's with the Fusion ones as well. They are very wide. In fact, if you got the new Fusion rack to hand,
Yeah.
the Fusion 2. Look at that. You see, that was hidden behind there. That was. I didn't spot that.
Yeah.
See, it's nice.
You actually wondered why would you have multiple on the VCF?
Yes, I did. That's right.
Yeah, but every module actually is well considered to be specifically in a complete system. So maybe for VCF itself you would not need this multiple, but for a system you need a multiple. And we do not have rack space for a dedicated multiple module, but we have larger VCF. Then we decided to include here a multiple. And I had this live stream with Heinbach and DivKids.
Yes.
And Ben came up with very nice idea because we have this CV recorder here.
Yes.
Then you can patch out CV recorder to the multiple, and you can simultaneously modulate several modules with the same CV coming from CV recorder, for instance.
Yeah. No, fair enough. I stand corrected then.
Yeah. So also VCA, for instance, we have VCA, but the ring modulator is awesome.
It is. That was just a
instrument.
lot of fun.
Yeah. So again, we do not have space for individual ring modulator, but we incorporated it into the VCA, and we normaled outputs of VCA to the ring modulator. So you already have ring modulator as a individual instrument, which gives, again, extra features to your system. So basically, therefore, we revised all entire Fusion system in order to have. This previous one was a bit of Frankenstein because it consisted of Fusion modules plus some black modules, and so.
Right.
But in this one, this is really well considered integrated system with a lot of functionality you wish to have. And thank you, Robin, for making demos, because they sometimes we do not have time to make demos.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely welcome. It was my pleasure. I'm going to grab my one just a second. Over here. That's not going to. My power cable's not going to reach. Yeah. That's been really good fun to play with. I painted this case. This is a nifty bundle case from Create Audio. It's a very cheap, very useful little case.
Sorry,
I spray painted black just to match the
I'm on the main
modules. I did that yesterday.
Sorry, Robin, I'm only on the screen. Robin, could you switch the screens, because I'm only one here now.
Oh, you see, that's, of course, yes. I've just done this wonderful presentation and no one could see it.
Yes.
Let's try that again. Okay, rewind. Yes. So, yeah, no, here, yes, like so. Yeah, that's to say that's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
A lot of fun playing with that.
But I agree that those modules, they are given all features, they are completely different from what we used to have in a rack. Yeah.
Yeah, no, interesting. Have you done anything more with Game Changer? Because you've got that the plasma thing sitting in the middle of that distortion module. Do you have any plans to do anything more like that with them? Or was that a one-off?
But we wanted to do a motor module, but the power consumption of those motors is huge. So I guess that would not fit in a regular rack.
Yeah.
But who knows? Because really, I'm really for cooperation with in different areas, because that's for mutual benefits, and that really promotes industry in general. And
Yeah.
And that was the reason we are making, for instance, garage streams, and we are doing Contactor Festival, because, we asked ourselves, if we do not promote the electronic and experimental music here, then possibly who else will? And yeah, that turned out to be quite a big thing,
That's great. Yeah, that's totally good. It's getting on a bit, I suppose. We should check back into the chat to see if anybody has any anything they want to ask. Before we should probably start winding it to a close, sadly. Keep everyone up so late. No, just general popping along, people having a nice time. No, that's good. Yeah.
We will have Pico Drum 2 next week.
Oh, excellent. I use my Pico drum a lot. I only ever I tend to use two sounds. I use the clap and the kick drum. But I don't know, it's there, it's working hard all the time. It's as simple as it uses up very little space. You've got two sounds. I don't have to worry about it. Yeah, good. All right, yeah, second one. Yeah,
second one will be completely different concept, so it will have sound generation algorithms.
Ooh.
So you can, within the algorithm, you can design your drum sounds, and so demos soon.
Okay, cool. Is that come from the sample drum, or is it a very different?
No,
again?
That's absolutely different. Because it's not sample based. It's actually like we developed patches on pure data, and then we transferred those into the algorithms which can handle the controller unit on a Pico module.
Mm-hmm. Any more, talking of Pico, the preset board you did?
Yeah.
How has that gone? I mean, how has that been received? Has it been something that people have been interested in?
Initial hype was higher than actual
actual take up.
Yeah. But Quince's Synth DIY guy is making series of YouTube demos on Pico System 3, and he very creatively approaches those patch cards, and he does amazing things with those. So, but yeah, maybe we did not promote the system as actively, or those patch cards as actively as I would love to, because some other developments and some instruments to support. But we definitely will come back to that one, because it's really, really nice system of that size, and again, with some creativity applied, you can do a hell lot with that one.
Yeah.
And it sounds huge. It sounds really, really huge.
Nice. Good. Well, I think perhaps we'll draw this to a close. Do you have any other information downloads you'd like to impart upon us? Is there any other news? Are you doing anything else over this Superbooth few days, or is this today been the day for you?
No, we have a couple of interviews, and the weather finally is nice, so we drive motorcycles.
Great.
So yeah, and I just wanted to say thank you to every single musician who is in Modular, even though he it's not using our modules because if industry develops in general, and I believe the music is like absolutely beautiful art to be in, and yeah, and thanks to all of you, we are here as a manufacturer. So yeah, and thank you, Robin, for having me.
Oh, well, no, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. It's been a delight to have you and to listen to, to everything that you've had to say. I haven't had to do anything. I've just sort of like chippied you along, and then off you go again. It's been fascinating, absolutely fascinating to listen to you talk. That's been brilliant. I mean, one thing I wanted to ask is, how is Latvia in our time of crisis? Is it how are things over there? Are you well generally? Is it you being looked after?
Latvia is. Where's the tuna? I wanted to show tuna. Oh yeah, here. Actually, Latvia is one of safest places to be these days because we have comparably few cases of COVID. Actually, like a couple of 600 or something, which is not much. We don't have that dense population, therefore like infection doesn't spread. We have just a couple of lethal outcomes. But yeah, everything is on lockdown. People keep social distancing. Schools are closed. A lot of people, unfortunately, lose job. We have government support for companies that are closed down. For instance, one of our factories who make our modules, NA company, their core business actually is show business. They set up stages, they manufacture lighting equipment, and they are really big worldwide. So large rock groups and shows specifically ask for their gear in their riders, because they did really huge work to get there. And they have their in-house manufacturing because they said they cannot rely on outsourced manufacturing of their lighting equipment, because sometimes they have order of like a couple of million euros, which has to be fulfilled like right now. But now they are completely closed because like show business is considered to be over this year. Yeah, and that's of course terrible, and economy of course suffers as elsewhere. But otherwise, of course, we had some light. Everybody in Erica Synths had some light symptoms.
Yes.
Yes, but they went away. So possibly this was simply spring cold or something.
Yeah, let's hope so. Well, again, thank you so much for being on our little chat. This, of course, will be available afterwards for people to look back on. I should just remind people, I suppose, that coming up will be... Where are we? Thursday night? Yeah, coming up will be this Sunday. We've got Mark Doty, synth historian. Be chatting with him on Sunday. Then, if I get this right... Oh my goodness, I'll have to refer to my sheet. starting to lose all track of time. And now, that's that week. Next week, Monday night, I've got a hardware hacker called Helen Lee. She's joining me for a chat. She does all sorts of things with sculpting sonic circuits and synthesizer embroidery. She makes gloves and things that control things, all that sort of thing. And then later in the week we have Matt Colville, who's a dungeon master and modular enthusiast. I'm going to be talking to him, so that'll be next week, and maybe one other in there as well. So that's coming up. Of course, over the next few days, Heimbach is still doing his thing. Sonic State has started doing their thing, and Superbooth is also doing their own thing too. So there's so much content, you can't even cope with it, I don't think, at the moment.
And I really hope that soon we will be able to meet in person again, and gigs and live sets will actually we will be able to enjoy in person and in presence. So yeah, let's keep fingers crossed. Meanwhile, let's spend some valuable time with synthesizers.
Yes, because I mean next year is going to be awesome, because we're all going to be sitting around practicing so hard this year that all our performances and meeting people again next year is going to be a huge explosion of art and appreciation for life and, you know, for music and stuff. It's going to be brilliant. So yeah, I'm feeling very up about it, generally speaking. So that's great. So yes, we're going to end our live stream here. Thanks very much for joining us. I appreciate everybody being in the chat, for hanging out with us for this last, oh my goodness, couple of hours. That's fantastic. Do take care. Thank you, Girts. I'll speak to you again in a second, but for now we're just going to end the stream here. Bye bye.
Ciao.